Happy holidays. Dr. SheRich here, and I am so excited about the podcast that you are about to see. It's episode 4 of Surviving with SheRich, and my guest, who I'm bringing on, shares an awesome miracle story. We know that this is the holiday season. It's a season where we prepare to celebrate the miracle birth of Jesus. And so I thought it was so fitting to have a woman come on here who shares her miracle birth story. It's a story of infertility. It's a story of challenging, a challenging road to becoming a parent. But we know that God is victorious in the end. So I hope that you tune in to watch this episode. And if it blesses you, I ask that you share it. That's the first thing I want you to do, is share it with somebody who you know can benefit from it, who you know will be blessed by it. But then I also want you to subscribe as well, so that any content that I release that's coming up, you'll get a notification for. So happy holidays again, and I hope that episode 4 blesses you. Welcome to Surviving with SheRich, the podcast where we help those silenced by trauma regain their voice. I'm your host, Dr. Sherry Richardson. Join my guests and me as we share inspiring stories of resilience and practical steps toward healing within a supportive community. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get started on this empowering journey from trauma to triumph, surviving to thriving, one story at a time. Welcome to Surviving with SheRich, the podcast where we allow those who have been silenced by trauma to regain their voices. I am your host, Dr. Sherry Richardson, and I am so excited to be here again. I feel like it's been a minute since I kind of shared with you, so I'm excited to be back. So before we begin, I'm just going to ask, if you have not done so already, I want you to go over and hit that subscribe button for me so that you can get notifications of new content that I send out. And as always, if this episode or my previous episodes have blessed you in any way, I encourage you to like and also share it with someone who you know can benefit from it also. So I am excited today. I have a beautiful guest with me today who I love with all of my heart. She is an awesome mother, daughter, friend, sister, and my line sister. She is my heart, y'all. So I want you to welcome my special guest, Renee Evelyn, to the podcast. Hey, Renee.
Hey sis, how are you?
I am so good. It is so good to have you on here. I have been looking forward to this moment for a little while since I talked to you. So I'm so excited. I know that you have experienced, we're going to have a discussion today, but I know
Mhm.
that there are so many things that you could talk about because your life has been chock full of stuff.
Amen.
But all right. But the thing I do, and I tell my guests all the time, those of you who are watching, I want to bring on um, guests who have experienced life and who can share their stories, because I know that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And so having Renee on today is just going to bless you guys so much, because she is a plethora of wisdom as it relates to life. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, she and girl, it's been over 30 years
Mhm.
that we have been knowing and loving each other. We met years ago at Trenton State College when we were both there, and we ended up, going through our intake process with our sorority. And so even though that was the way that we met each other, life literally kept us connected. And before I even go into our discussion, I just want to say thank you to you, because I was in the process of purging some things, and I found all these pictures from, I'm not even going to tell you what year.
Oh wow.
I'm not even going to
I'm
say.
scared.
Yeah, please. We were cute though, girl. We were cute back then. But I'm gonna drop a nugget. We were at Rutgers University, So that was probably 93,
Mhm.
hanging with our bros at the
Yep.
time. But
Yep.
I looked and I was just like, I looked back through the years, there were pictures of weddings and
Mhm.
baby showers and other things. And I just said, God, we've done life together.
We've done life together.
We've done life
Yes,
together.
we
And so
have.
before I even start, want to tell you how much I love you and how thankful I am that God connected me to somebody who literally has had my back over 30 years. So I thank you so
Likewise.
much.
Likewise, sis.
Hmm.
Likewise. Likewise.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit. I kind of shared how we met. Tell us a little bit about you so the audience knows who is Renee Evelyn.
Listen, Renee Evelyn is still trying to figure out who Renee Evelyn is
I know that's
because
right.
every day, just like anyone else, every day we learn something new about ourselves.
Mm,
Um, and we are still surprising. Our God is still surprising us.
yes,
God is still
he is.
surprising us with what he does for us, to us, and how he does it. So I am originally from Barbados, as you know.
Yes, I
And
do.
yes, I came here. I was actually born in the US, but
Okay.
I went home at 8 months and stayed in Barbados the first time until I was about 7 or 8.
Okay.
After such time, my mother couldn't figure out, do I want to stay home? Do I want to come back? Do I want to go
Right.
here? Do I want to go there? So my entire childhood, I was just back and forth, just
Mm,
back and forth. Um, and then when I came at 7 or 8, my grandmother decided to come with me because at that time, which I learned later on, she didn't really trust my mother with me.
okay.
Yeah, to in parenting, and she couldn't really let go of me, so she came with me. And over the years, I've had to deal with what I would consider, what I interpreted as resentment from my cousins, because it was almost as if she chose Renee, my grandmother,
Hmm.
and left them, back home. So came up here, and we just rode the wave of the back and forth, school here, school there, flights here, flights there, packing up the house, we moving home. Oh no, we're coming back. So
Gosh.
it was a roller coaster of a journey.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, my mother, as I got older, I realized my mother probably had some undiagnosed mental health issues.
Okay.
And my father divorced my mother when I was 7 or 8, like when I first got back here. And I didn't see him again until I was 14, and then again at 24.
Wow.
So I had an absent father, but not an absent paternal family, because
Understand.
I always kept in touch with my family.
Right.
Family has always been very important to me. And, as I got older and I recognized my passion in social work and my passion in people, I realized that me connecting myself, staying connected to my father's family, was me subconsciously trying to stay connected to him.
Mm,
And even though, he once told me, I always knew what was going on with you because you always kept in touch with the family.
right.
And there wasn't any issues between him and his family. It's just that he unfortunately did not want to be a part of anything that had to do with my mother. So he distanced himself from me.
Right.
And interestingly enough, when he passed away, we were the best of friends.
Oh, praise God for
We were
restoration.
the best of friends.
Hmm.
He waited till I got to an age where we could talk about it, and I could say what I have to say, and he said what he had to say, and we became the best of friends. Made amazing memories since from the age of 24.
Oh,
Um,
love that.
so that's a little bit of my journey, how I got here to this country and the type of life that I lived. I truly believed that I would not say my mother raised me,
Mhm.
because my mother was, you know, you have those parents or you have those people who are physically present,
Right.
and that's it,
Absolutely. Hmm.
right? And
Yep.
that could be friendships, parenting, relationships. People can be physically present but still be absent. And
Yep.
that's the childhood that I had. That's the relationship I had with my mother growing up. She was always physical. She was always present
Right.
physically, but there were other people that was nurturing me and
Yep.
taking care of me. and, that I would go to for comfort or for advice or, for anything. So it was a very tumultuous, relationship over the years between me and my mother.
Yeah, I have seen that. Actually, I've lived it a little bit myself, and I actually call that the absence of a present parent, because they're present, but they're absent. They're
Correct.
physically there, but the support and the other things are not. But one thing I love that you said was you stayed, even in your youth, you understood the importance of family. You understood the importance of staying connected. And I think it amazes me as children and as young adults how sometimes we're far more mature, and we take on certain responsibilities and we respond in certain ways because we have that innate feeling and we know that's what we're supposed to do.
Correct.
And so we
Correct.
get the benefit of that. And it's unfortunate because the adults who you think should and would step up in certain situations don't. But thank God that we did, because it allowed that transition to happen, even though it was later on in life, and you were still able to reap the benefits of that. So
Correct.
that's amazing.
And the one thing we have to realize too, that what we don't realize when we're doing it, it's a cycle. Because as a child, you don't know why things are happening the way they're happening.
That's
right.
True.
But as you become an adult and you're educated and you just look around you, you realize that it's a cycle.
It is.
And most times when there are people like that are physically present, but not, mentally, emotionally, something else is behind them.
Right.
That they haven't acknowledged or they haven't recognized. But now that we've gone through it with them, we can recognize it.
Yep.
Right. So
exactly. And that's what's important for the next generation. And we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that is how we change generational patterns of behavior.
Absolutely.
I think about what you said when you said you were the chosen one as it relates to what some people thought. But what we have to remember and realize is before we were formed in our mother's wombs, we had a purpose that was placed inside of us. And God is going to do everything he needs to preserve what he has established. He knew what he needed from you in the earth, and he knew who to send you to be able to cover that and nurture that and preserve that. And so it many times is not a biological parent.
Absolutely.
And actually in the line of work you do, I'm sure you see that all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some people I just had this conversation over this weekend. Some people may think this is, I'm not cold, but I guess because of my experience, I'm often, or should I say, I was often reminded the couple of times me and my mother became estranged and did not communicate. I was often reminded what the Bible says about honoring your mother and your father. But I'm a firm believer that giving birth does not make someone a parent.
So true.
I'm a firm believer that honoring my mother and my father does not mean that I allow my mother and my father to mistreat me or for anyone to mistreat me based on a title, right? Because if I wanted to be technical, the Bible says, thou shalt not kill. We have the death penalty, right? So where's the interpretation, in how we react to people's feelings about certain things, and where's the interpretation on our judgment of how people handle certain things that's happening in their life, just because you wouldn't handle it that way. If when people want to talk about the Bible and quote things from the Bible, we have 18 million different versions of the Bible.
A lot.
Based on somebody's interpretation.
Right.
So, I mean, judging is easy because I think that a lot of people use it as an outlet. It's used as an outlet to avoid your own stuff.
You're right. That defense mechanism,
Correct.
diversionary tactic, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Is a diversionary
Absolutely.
Tactic. People do not like when a mirror is shown in their face and the light comes. It's not always easy, but I talked in previous podcasts about the power of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that is how we heal, even though we have to make adjustments. Because trust me, forgiveness does not mean I pull you back into
Correct. I
my
was just
closed
thinking
inner
that when you
circle.
said that.
Hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. I can love you, but I may have to make some adjustments so I can
Correct.
continue to do what it is that I'm called to do. So
Mhm.
that's very good, very, very good. And when you talked about that honor, honoring your parent, when you become a parent, obviously that's what you want your children to do with
To
you and
do.
for you. And
Mhm.
so being able to be the first person to provide that allows that reciprocation to take place. And
Correct.
so I'm gonna shift a little bit because one of the reasons why I brought you on today, when I think about the holiday season, it is December. So we talk about the gift of the birth of Christ. We talk about and as a child, he was a gift. He was a gift
Mhm.
that was given. And so when I thought about that, I said, you know what, I wanted to bring you on in December because you have a similar gift. You have a son who is absolutely amazing with his handsome little self. He getting too big for me though, because I'm like,
Very 5'4".
I'm like, hold on a second. You're looking at me right here. That should not be
Mhm.
happening. But
Mhm.
I want to talk about that because he truly was a miracle and a gift from God. But his ability to get here was a long wait. A
Correct.
long wait. So I want you to talk a little bit about that because children are a gift. And so it took you a little bit of time to actually receive yours. And so I want you to share some of that.
So the last time I moved back from Barbados, I started substitute teaching,
Mhm.
and I realized that I couldn't do little kids. Bless y'all heart, all y'all.
Oh, it's a grace place that you have to be in. I agree.
Hunting. Mm-mm. And then I coached high school basketball.
Mhm.
And during this time, you never really think about, well, I didn't think about having children. It wasn't, so I started coaching high school basketball. And I actually, one of my players at the time, she was a freshman, was being physically abused by her mother.
Mhm.
And she ended up coming and staying with me for a couple of weeks, um, while her mother went through the counseling and this, that, and the next. And then, that got resolved. A few years later, another player comes along, and this player, her mother aren't having those types of issues, but I saw myself in this child because her mother was very, very, like every other week they were moving. It seemed like
Mhm.
her and her siblings, they were here. And then I would try to go there and I can't find them because they're there and I don't know where, and I got to wait for her to call me or whatever. But this child had I would say the same wits that I had. And at some point decided she didn't want to go back. She wanted to stay permanently with me.
Okay.
So she ended up staying with me. I obtained custody of her and I raised this child from the age of 14. Got her through college, all of that. Now she's grown on her own, 37. So around 37 for me, it hit me. I want to have a child. One thing that I want to share with the audience and anyone who, you know, gets to that point, one of the things that my OBGYN said to me is that we as women, when it comes to childbirth, when it comes to fertility in our organs, we don't know what's going on, and they don't know. The GYNs don't know what's going on inside of us until we decide we're ready to have a child.
That's
Because
right.
our annual appointments, they're not looking for anything that has to do with fertility,
Right.
right? So unless you tell them that you're looking to have a child, you want to have a child, can you run some tests? First of all, they're not just going to run the tests. They have to know that you've tried and things
Exactly.
have been failing.
Mhm.
So when I hear young people say, "Oh, I have time," no, you don't.
Right.
Don't believe that. You don't have time because again, we were made to give birth,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that what's happening inside of us medically will allow for that. So you
Right.
don't have time. So whenever I hear someone says, "Oh, married couples say, oh, we have time," no, let me talk to you about this,
Exactly.
right?
That's
And
good.
you know, I've been told that there's 19-year-olds that can't have children that go through fertility treatment. There's 20-year-olds that are high risk.
Right.
They, you know, it's not, there's no age on it. But I didn't learn this until I was going through my struggles. I always thought that age played a factor, and you know, and it does,
Right.
but not to the extreme that I believed it to. So around 37, I decided I wanted to start on my journey of having my own child. Well, a journey it was. The pokes, the prods, the blood, the needles, the tears, the crying, the therapy, everything. So my GYN at that time did the normal test. Everything came back fine. Couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting pregnant. Decided to send me to the fertility clinic. So we go to the fertility clinic. The first treatment that I did, I became pregnant. And 7 weeks later, I miscarried. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. I went as far as, you know, my relationship ended. I contacted a very good friend of mine in Barbados, flew him up here. He donated, you know, a sample. I did it all. I would go into stores, and if I see a baby, someone with a baby, I'd have to leave the store because I'd be in tears. And at the time, still dealing with, you know, the discord with my mother. So I was in therapy during this time. So it was, you know, it was quite difficult. The last thing that I did, which I didn't even know existed, when I shared this with people, they're like, "You did what?" So I didn't know you can adopt an embryo. Yes. So the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. So I took out a loan.
Wow.
In order to pay for this adoption of this embryo. It's the same way as if you were looking for a donor or looking for a surrogate, and you would look through the books and you would look at the stats of the person, you know, the information. It's the same thing with the embryo. I was able to select the couple whose egg it was, who the father was, and adopt this embryo.
Wow.
It was a debt worth taking as far as I was concerned at that time. But that didn't work either. And at that point, it was the last thing that I did. And
now let me ask this quick question, Renee, because this was, so you started this process at 37. So this is now somewhere around age 40.
Correct.
Okay. Emotionally, yes. Were you starting to get discouraged? Because a lot of times, like you said, age plays a factor. So it's like, were you saying, "Oh my gosh, you know, my biological clock is almost not going to be ticking"? Like what was happening with you emotionally?
What was happening was I thought I was being punished because of my childhood.
Wow.
And that's what happened. I thought that God felt that he wanted the cycle to end. And in order for the cycle to end, then I'm not going to allow you to have a child.
My goodness.
And that was just my resolve.
Wow.
That was just my resolve.
Wow.
And
it's funny how perception right. comes in, because that was not the truth, you know, no. But it was your truth at the time.
It was my truth at that time. So I remember it was clearly September of 2012 was when I got the news that didn't work. And it took me until December 31st of that same year I'm very big on New Year's Eve. It's my favorite holiday. I like to leave everything in the previous year. And every time I would go in the closet and I would see the boxes of the needles, and I'd say, "God, I need to get rid of these needles." I did not have the strength. But December of 2012, I said, "God, I need you to give me the strength. And I need to get rid of these needles." I called the fertility clinic and I said, "Would you like these unused needles?" And they're like, "Renee, you sure you're done?" I said, "I can't do anything else." Even if I didn't want to be done, I couldn't, emotionally, financially, I couldn't do anything else.
Right.
Turned the needles over, and I was done with it. I said, "Well, what's to be is going to be." 4 months later, on Good Friday, I met my son's dad. And 5 months after that, I was pregnant naturally.
Wow.
At,
See, that right there, God is funny to me.
at 42, looking at God and saying, God, you funny.
Funny.
At 42 years old.
But that's how he works. Like literally, when he wants to get the glory out of something, he will make sure he strips everything
Everything.
that could take credit.
Yep.
And there was not, like you said, I was done. It was
I was
nothing else
done.
I could do. It was nothing else I could say. I was, you had exhausted everything. And he said, okay, now I could work.
Correct.
Because he didn't want you or anybody else to be able to steal the glory that he was getting. Because this was a miracle. This was a miracle at this point.
Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
I love that about him. Love it.
Absolutely.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I remember the first day I went to the doctor, I almost kicked the doctor in the chest because I thought that I suffered from fibroids. So I thought that my fibroids had come back.
Wow.
And I was looking at the screen and the doctor said, "Do you see that?" And I said, "Oh man, the fibroids came back." I asked them what I'll have an appointment with them for an annual because I didn't have a GYN at that time because I had been seeing them for the last 4 years.
Mhm.
And I thought the fibroids came back. I saw it on the screen and he said, and the nurse was laughing. And in my head, I'm like, why is she laughing? This is not funny.
Right.
And he says, "Do you see that?" And I said, "Oh man, the fibroids came back." He said, "No, you're pregnant." And my right leg out of the stirrup went straight at his chest.
Oh no,
Yes,
no,
it was quite
not an assault on the doctor. Wait
yes,
a
an
minute.
assault on the doctor, and he was the owner. And he said, "Renee."
Oh gosh.
So they left the room, and I just stayed there and held my stomach and just started crying.
Hmm.
And when I walked out, the nurse had went out and told everybody that I was expecting. So when I walked out the room, everybody was out there clapping and cheering because they had all been there while I was going through this for the 4 years before. Um, and so when I went to my first appointment with the OB, and she said, "Well, I'll see you in 4 weeks." I said, 4 weeks? She
Mhm.
said, "Yes." I said, "You don't need to see me next week?" And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I'm high risk. I'm 42."
Right.
She said, "Have a seat."
Oh, she about to
And
school you? Was she about to
that's
educate you?
yes. And
Okay.
that's what she told me. And I shared this as well. She said, "Age does not make anybody high risk."
Mm.
She said, it's a medical condition that
Wow.
makes women high risk. She
Hmm.
said, any woman that you talk to and they tell you they're high risk, I guarantee you they have something else going on. She
Wow.
said, think about the women that you know that have been high risk. Twins can make you high, multiple births can make you high risk because it's
Mhm.
multiple births.
Right.
But a single birth, high risk. She said, I have 19s, 20s, 35, 25, 28 that come in here and they're high risk, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. She said, the medical issue makes you
Right.
high risk, not your
Mhm.
age. And I thought about that. And I had two cousins, two first cousins, both younger than me, one in her 20s, one in her 30s. And here I am in my 40s. We're all pregnant, same time. So my father and two of his siblings were becoming grandparents at the same time for the first time. And I guess everyone would have expected that I have the pregnancy challenges.
Mhm.
I didn't have heartburn, an upset stomach. I didn't have cravings. I didn't have cramps. I
Wow.
didn't have nothing. Both of my cousins delivered their children very early. One ended up with medical issues, one
Mhm.
of my cousins. And we would talk, and I'd say, "I'm so sorry. I can't relate to anything. The only thing that's happening with me is my stomach is growing."
Yeah.
My child did not kick me. My child did not keep me up at night. I didn't, and I went through every month until the last 4 weeks where I did the once a week.
Wow.
I had the perfect pregnancy.
Oh, thank
Um,
God.
and then my miracle child arrived exactly 1 week early on his grandfather's 70th birthday.
Wow.
And he was the only on his dad's father. I was due on the 13th. I gave birth on the 6th,
Mhm.
and that was his grandfather's 70th birthday. And he was the only grandchild on both sides of the family.
Wow.
So he's truly a blessing. I would tell anyone, when you feel like you're going to give up or you feel like you've given up, watch God.
That's it.
Watch God.
That's it. That's it.
And it may not be in the form of actually giving birth to a child. It may be in a different form of becoming a parent, but watch God.
I love that. I appreciate and I love this time, this season, because it is about a miracle birth of a son.
Correct.
And so I think about you and I'm like, that's exactly what you had, the miracle birth of a son. And if anybody knows us, if anybody knows our line, you're a number 6. So the fact that your miracle baby came on the
This is
6th,
my number.
that's your number.
Six
That
is my
is your
number.
number.
And actually, my daughter's birthday is on the 6th.
I love that. I
Yep.
love that.
They were both
God,
born on the 6th.
it's the little things. It's
It's the
the
little
little
things.
miracles.
It's the
It
little
is.
things.
And
It's the
that's
little
how
things.
God continues to show us that He never leaves us. He is always with us.
Mhm.
And He knows what we're going to go through. That's why He knows how to use it and work it together for our good and for His glory. And so, anybody who is listening to your story, and actually, the fertility story, the infertility story is not just about women
No, absolutely not.
because the men go through it. The hard part with them is because women are the physical vessel, most of the attention goes to her when
Mhm.
a child is, um, when they miscarry, or unfortunately, if there's a stillbirth, if the child is premature and lives a short period of time. Like most of the attention is given to the mother.
Correct.
But truth be told, it's a parenting struggle for the mother and the father. So this story is an encouragement, not just to women, but it's an encouragement to men.
Mhm.
One of the things I'm going to do in June of next year for Father's Day, I'm actually going to do a panel with several men who have either gone through the infertility process with their wives or their partner. Some of them had children who were born prematurely, and were not on this physical earth for a long period of time. Another one actually was his wife. They had a stillborn. And
Mhm.
so women suffer through, but men suffer in silence also. What would you say to anyone who is going through this situation? What advice would you give, or what would you share with them on ways that they can remain strong and healthy through this type of a challenging situation?
Um, my advice would be one, it's never in our time. We don't see it at that time, but it's not in our time, it's in his time, right? And one of the things that I've also learned is accepting that there may not be a emotional reason or mental reason why you can't or you're not being able to give birth to a child. There may be, God may see something medically
Mm.
that you can't see, right? It could be an unhealthy situation for you to give birth to a child, right? Um, God is also the God of protection, and He may be protecting you from something that may be a little bit more traumatic to you. Giving birth is a need and a desire that we have,
Right.
right? But if you look at it as it's also it's also something that God grants us, but it's also a privilege. Um, and there's a lot that is tied in medically to bringing a child in this world.
True.
And you don't have a clue. We don't know what that's like until you start the journey,
Yeah. That's
right?
God
So
of protection. I like that.
it may not be the way that we want it to be, but it may be the way that he feels it has to be.
Mhm. That's good.
Um, can I offer a suggestion for your male panel? Yes, my suggestion would be men who are going through the infertility journey with their wives when they are the ones with the infertility.
Mm,
And because it is a struggle for a man to accept
right.
that they're the ones that may be the ones having the challenges.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of men keep it a secret. A lot of men won't even share that journey with other men
Right.
out of embarrassment because we're not supposed to have that issue.
Exactly. Hmm.
Right. So I think that if you can find men that would talk about that openly,
I love that.
I think that would reach a population that is really hidden
Hmm.
because there may be even there are men who their wives get pregnant via fertility and they don't want anyone to know, or they don't want to share, or they don't want their wife to tell their friends, or they don't want. And again, blessing, protection, right, um is the bigger picture.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that any struggle that I have, any challenge I have, anything that happens, good or bad,
Hmm.
I'm going to be a testimony to somebody else,
That's it. That's what it's all about.
because God didn't allow me to go through these things, good or bad, for me to keep them to myself, not when my stories can help others.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that's why this particular podcast is so important because whatever the challenge, whatever the trauma, it does silence us.
Yes, it
We
does.
we oftentimes suffer in silence,
Yep, we
which
do.
isolates us. And, when we regain our voice, it's not just a healing process for us, it
Mhm.
empowers so
Yes,
many other people. And that's really
absolutely.
what it's all about. There we go. So, yes, final thoughts. I don't know if there's anything, final thoughts you want to share, or, if people want to contact you. I know, you got this little side thing going on, Flojo. I want to highlight that real quick because I want people to support you, not just with this, but you got a little side hustle thing that
Yes.
has been
So
a blessing to you. Go ahead.
I am the Queen EO of Raise Restyle Lounge, a resale online boutique, specializing in reselling new and used items, pre-loved items, women's, men's, children's accessories. I just came back from Atlanta, where I won the best resale boutique amongst the Thrift Fab uh, at the Thrift Fab Awards in Atlanta this past weekend. I'm over the moon, excited about that. That my
Wow.
peers, as well as the community, thought it not robbery to vote for me for that. So I can be reached at Raise Restyle Lounge on Facebook and Instagram. My website is www.raiserestylelounge.com. And I have a Facebook group as well, which is Raise Restyle Lounge Originals.
Yes.
Um, so second half, of course, named after my son, because
Hmm.
everything I breathe for him.
That's
Um,
right.
so that's why it's Raise Restyle Lounge.
Awesome. And when are your shows? When are you featured? Because you feature different people. So when are
Yeah,
you actually featured?
every show that I do, whether it be on my platform or other platforms, I share into my group.
Oh,
So,
okay, good.
whether I'm on my platform every Wednesday night,
Okay.
but like even like this week, I've had a show every night since Tuesday, and I've shared it into the group. So if you're a member, part of my group, then you would see the other shows that I'm doing as well.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you, Renee, for being here. I love
Oh,
you
you're welcome,
so
Dylan.
much. I
Oh, we
cannot
love you
wait
too.
to release this to the world so that they can be blessed by it. And I just know that so many people are going to be touched. So many lives are going to be changed as a result of your
If
story.
it's just one,
If it-
it's a blessing.
and exactly
So
because that might be just the reason why for that one person.
absolutely.
So, again, to our audience, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Surviving with SheRich. If it has been a blessing to you and you were able to just have something to take away to encourage you, I ask that you subscribe. But also, if you know someone who is going through a similar situation and could use the encouragement, make sure you click that share button also. Thank you again and have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Surviving with SheRich. If this content helped you, hit like, subscribe, and share. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dr. SheRich4.